I control the volume or the level of that microphone. And when we have a large orchestra out in the studio, we have to turn all of these knobs to control the level of each of those microphones. Now that microphone feeds on up through here, and it goes all the way up through the board, and it shows on the meter up there the level of that particular microphone. And when we match all the levels the right way, you hear the right sound on your finished record. This board, in order to help me make the record, is sort of like a computer. We have another cabinet over there that has 640 relays in it and 20,000 transistors. And when I push this one button, it causes 4 or 5 of those relays to work, so that by pushing that one button, I can achieve 3 or 4 different functions.
Who taught you how to work all these things?
Well, I learned from years of experience, because I started doing this when it was really simple. And as it got more complicated, I gradually learned how to do it.
Why are all those meters numbered up to 16?
Each microphone goes to one of those channels or one of those meters. And we can see what each microphone is doing, level-wise. And then they're all combined to these 2 meters, which show what the level of the finished record will be. They're all combined with these knobs up in here. And at this point, we can put on the echo and make it sound a little smoother, like a finished record. We can control the amount of echo that we put on each microphone.
Ed, you mentioned that you were here when it was simple. What has been the major differences in recording now?
Well, when it started, we used to record on one track of one tape. It was mono recording. And then we went to stereo recording, which is 2-channel recording, left and right speakers, and you have a left and right sound. Well, after we got to the stereo recording, they decided, in order to get more control, that they would record on 3-track tape, where they could put the vocalist on a track by itself and the band on a track by themselves. Then they could control it better. And then we went to 4-track and 8-track, and now we're recording on 16 tracks on one piece of tape, and we have control over each instrument in most cases, and we can add things after we get through with the original recording session. We can re-record the tape with that new instrument on it and keep what we have already recorded.
Speaking about recordings, Ed, any possibility of us trying one?
Stand by. All right, the tape is rolling now. Anytime you're ready. This is your land and my land, or whatever you want to call it. Take 1.
1, 2, 3.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land is made for you and you.
Jim, one of our serendipities was visiting Capsule Records and learning how tapes are made for recordings. Could you explain what happens after you receive the tape?
After we receive the tape, we take it to the studio, and from the tape we cut a master acetate, which is an acetate lacquer. From there we go to a metal master. From the metal master we make a metal mother. From the metal mother we make the stamper, and this is the stamper which we press the record from. We have an A and a B stamper mounted in the dies in the presses, and that's where the record comes from. way the record starts to be made. The granules go up into the hopper, down into the machine where the heater bands heat the material up and it comes out in a plasticized form. The operator will put a label on the top of the die and the bottom of the die, and then the material goes on top of the label. The mold is closed, the die goes in, the hydraulic pressure comes on. Press comes up and it pushes the material out into the stamper where you get your recorded sound on the plastic material. Now, this flash that you see here can be ground up and reused to make additional records.
records do you make a day?
We make approximately from 50 to 60,000 records a day.
Approximately how many records do you make in a whole year?
That's hard to say. The season fluctuates. So actually we probably will come up maybe 11 million records or more per year.
Look what they done to my song, Mom.
Hey, what's the matter?
Look what they done to my song, Mom. Oh, Lord, Mom. The only thing I could have right and nice, turn it out all wrong, Mom. Look what they done to my song. Now listen to me, please.
Standing by the highway, a suitcase by my side. No place I wanna go, I just thought I'd catch a ride.
Last rain was in May, when the rainmaker came to Kansas in the middle of a dusty day, talking about the northern river running cool and clear, whispering quicksilver words in every thirsty ear. Rain, rain, the people prayed, don't wait for another day. Rain, rain, the people prayed, don't wait for another day. Others think I'm a son. You can't go on.
Okay, now, if you'll notice the records, young people, those are the ones we just saw pressed in the room next door. Now, Jim will explain what takes place here in the inspection room. Okay, Jim?
You see the records come in on the conveyor from the press room to the inspectors. Now, each press is individually marked each inspector has certain numbers that they must pick off the conveyor. Now, they inspect the records visually for defects such as scratches, dirt, bubbles, wet labels, etc. And then they put them in the dust sleeve that corresponds to the label. Then they put it into the jacket that corresponds to the record that they're inspecting. They count them out of 25, put them in the boxes you see here. They go along the conveyor to a man who records the operator's production.
What happens, Jim, if a record is rejected due to defects?
If the record is rejected, we take it out, punch out the center, and chop it up and regrind it.
What do you mean by punching out the center?
To get the paper, the label off the record, where the paper does not get back in the material.
And could you tell us what's happening here?
The lady here is inspecting the record, turning it over, inspects both sides, puts it in the dust sleeve. When she gets through with this stack, then she pulls the hard jacket and inserts it in the hard jacket.
After they're boxed here, Jim, I'm assuming they're ready for distribution?
They're ready for distribution, that's right. They're packed and shipped to the distributors, who in turn sell it to the retailers.
Notice, young people, that records are certainly protected, aren't they? Not only do they go into a dust cover, then into an album cover, but if you'll turn this way, you'll see phase 3, a different kind of protective covering. Right, Jim?
That's right. Now, you see these are all automatically sealed. The film is on the machine, it rolls down, the jaws in the machine there cut it off and seal it. And then it comes down through here into the heat tunnel, and that shrinks it up so it's a real tight fit where no dust can get into it, and your records are sealed for good. All right, we're going to go back into the quality control room where we started, where the records are tested to see whether they're good quality and whether we can make the record or not, or whether we'll have to reject it and get a new stamper. Now, this is where that's all controlled from, is right in this room here. The microscope is set up and used if as the damage is not visible on the stamper. They take the microscope with its powers and find out whether it's a stock damage or whether it is a stripping damage when the stampers are separated at the plating plant.
Jim, how many hours does your men work?
Well, we have 3 shifts, so we work 24 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Say, gang, do you ever wonder how the records get to your supermarkets or record stores from here? Perhaps Jim can give us more details on that.
Well, after the records leave the plant, they go over to our shipping department. They order